Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Knockdown Sports Radio. My name is Chris Calicut. As always, joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Cody T. How are you, sir?
Chris, I'm doing great. It is good to be back on this very, very white, snowy day.
Just let everybody know you're actually not in the blizzard. You have a white backdrop behind you right now. You're actually not sitting outside doing the podcast. You are indoors in some nice, comfy conditions.
Yeah. I'm in one of our new spare bedrooms that yet to be painted. Wonderful polka dots on the wall next to me, but we will not talk about that.
So, as you said, you've made a little move to your abode. So, congratulations to you and Mrs. Leslie on that.
Thank you very much. Yep, and congratulations to you and I on what we were going to touch on, the delay of all delays for a radio show. Promotions on both ends of the spectrum here for us.
Yeah, the professional career is taken off just minorly for both of us, but hey, a step's a step, so good is good, but real life unfortunately gets in the way sometimes. But you know how you get promoted? You have a great sports podcast.
Hey-o. You know how you get rich quick? Have somebody watch this podcast.
Currently we have, hold on, I think one live viewer, so welcome.
Thank you, Salita.
Sports Radio. It's actually not Salita. It's not Salita.
Oh, God.
But,
Okay.
As always, brought to you by 2H Brewing of now High Point, North Carolina. They've moved locations as well. Do y'all have some new stuff that you're looking at brewing up in the new place?
Man, we have some ideas. We have 2 or 3 beers lined up to brew once we finally get things lined up and find the equipment. From the move, but we do have some good stuff lined up. First off, it's going to probably be something pepperminty for the end of the holiday season.
Very good, very good. As we alluded to earlier, a little snowy here in central North Carolina. Some sad faces down south, and only about 3 or 4 inches where I'm at. And you said about 7 or 8 inches where you're at, correct?
That's it. 7 inches was my wife's last check with the tape measure.
All right, good stuff. But wanted to remind you guys, too, about some of the things I'm doing with Wrestling Inc. that we continue to be excited about. WrestlingInc.com, owner Raj Giri. I've been with them since July now. It feels like was only yesterday I started out with those guys, but I've been with them for about 6 months now. Still doing live coverage for NXT, now the new Cruiserweight show, 205 Live. Any post-show as far as like Raw Talk, Talking Smack, anything like that. I'm just sort of the go-to guy when needed on top of those live coverages. And also I take over their Twitter for Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live on Tuesdays, both at 8 o'clock. Have a good time with all of our listeners and readers there. And I covered my first pay-per-view a couple of months ago, which was hectic but fun. I also joined their podcast 2 weeks ago, which was a great experience. Hopefully they'll have me back soon. Enjoyed it immensely with host Glenn Rubenstein and owner Raj Giri as well. So excited to keep working with those guys as we continue to look ahead into 2017. But as for us, the snow lets us have podcasts. So, yay snow.
Yay snow. For the one thing that we will be celebrating for, we get to do a show.
So lots of stuff going on, whether it's happened in the past week or two, and a lot of stuff coming up this weekend because it's Wildcard Weekend in the NFL. So 4 games on the slate for this weekend. We've got everything for you from the lines to the weather to the guys to look out for, and going ahead and telling you can skip the game we're about to talk to. Raiders.
There's no easy way to say that one.
No, Raiders versus Texans. This is go ahead. If it's snowing, turn it on. If your power's out, don't worry about it. You're not going to miss a whole lot. Raiders come in at 12-4. Had a great season for Raider standards. Behind the back of Derek Carr, great quarterback for them. Going to do big things in the future. Had definitely a breakout year. He's been good for a couple of years now. I think this is his 4th year, but he really had his breakout season this season with a good receiving core and a decent running back behind him as well. But they take on the Texans at 9-7, who somehow squeaked their way into the playoffs amongst not having a quarterback. or a head coach. But I digress.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this game, in terms of this is the one game we can't even talk about weather either because, of course, they're in a dome. Right. So that being the case, the Texans actually do have the number 2 passing defense. So they do have that going for them, which may cause some problems because the Raiders are going to have to run the ball. So, I mean, as of right now, Houston's picked at 3.5. I just really want Oakland to win just because a team like the Texans do not deserve to be in the playoffs for winning the division.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Savage, honestly, I think is a better quarterback. I got to watch him in the ACC at Pitt his senior year. Tom Savage is a good quarterback. He had some decent numbers when he's played those couple of games, but Brock Osweiler getting the start for them. Rookie Connor Cook out of Michigan State is going to get the start for Oakland. The backup quarterback is out as well, I think with shoulder injury or something along those lines. So to me, this game honestly comes down to either a pick because somebody gets too cute with their pass game or a special teams play. Because you're not going to see – if this game, either team scores over 20, it's going to boggle my mind.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, even the last game with everyone semi-healthy, November 21st, Oakland won 27-20. So, I mean, it's pretty much 2 teams, Houston strictly based on defense, Oakland strictly based on offense. It's just basically who's going to stonewall each team the most. I mean, you're right. I mean, I didn't check the over/under for this game, but it's 37. I can see that being a pretty good point to where there's no more than 1 touchdown scored for each team. It's going to be awful to watch. Texans shouldn't even be here.
Yeah, I mean, and considering I didn't look at those numbers beforehand, I'll take my prediction and enjoy it because apparently me and Vegas think alike, which is dangerous. But I'm like you. I'd like to see the Raiders. It's weird to call the Raiders a feel-good story, but I'd like to see them advance just to see what they can do.
I mean, it was their first well, they didn't even end up winning the division. They were trying to win the division for the first time in like 12 years, and it didn't happen. They got shot down when, their car broke down. Hey, joke. And then, Kansas City, who started off slow, just finished off this phenomenal. I mean, there you go. Now they got the first round bye. So
yeah, and we can talk about them next week if it snows again, which I don't think it's going to. But hey, we'll check it out as we get there. But looking on to game number 2, which will happen later this evening, after Raiders and Texans, that is the Lions coming in at 9-7 at the Seattle Seahawks, which are 10-5 and the elusive tie. So 10-5-1. The 12th man's going to win it, right? They kind of have to. I mean, again, these are 2 teams that are semi-struggling. Russell Wilson doesn't look quite the same as he did. The defense has lost a minor step for Seattle, but the Lions can score. Matt Stafford is a phenomenal quarterback, but he broke his finger a few weeks ago, and he's sort of been toying with some gloves on his throwing hand, and just has not quite looked the same, quite as sharp. So what's your feelings going in on this one?
Well, I just want to allude. I know how you said that Detroit likes to throw up points, but actually in terms of points per game, in terms of scoring them, Seattle actually has just quite a bit more. Oh, so there's a fun fact for you there. Not by much. We're talking like a point or so, but they're pretty much even in terms of throwing up points. It's going to have to be for me if the defense can stop Matt Stafford. Is it possible? I mean, broken finger or not, the kid just throws darts all over the place. He makes bad decisions, and if he ends up making any of those bad decisions, the game's over. If he plays a turnover-free game like we know he can, they have a shot to go into CenturyLink Field and beat the Seahawks. But one turnover, it's over, and because that's usually what happens because then he's forcing everything else the rest of the game.
Oh, I definitely agree. Stafford has that gunslinger-type mentality, always has, and he's always thrown for a bunch of touchdowns in his career, but he's also thrown for a bunch of picks every year too. But he's sort of gotten that ratio down a little bit this year until the last couple games, till his injury. But I had him as my backup fantasy quarterback, right, all year long. and he would either equal or outscore Aaron Rodgers, who I started primarily, all year long until the Packers got just scorching hot late in the season. So, I mean, we know he can put up the points. The yardages are there. The strikes are there. It's just a matter of, it's going to be a little chilly probably up there in the great Northwest. And we'll see if that has any bearing on the game. But I know one thing that will. The Lions being in the playoffs in general means the Lions are going to lose in the first round of whatever time they get in. The the Lions, the last, I think, 8 trips to the playoffs are 0-8. And in away games in the playoffs, I think it was like a combined 0-12. I mean, it's almost hopeless. So what does Vegas say about this one? I mean, I've got to say that whatever they've got them at, they're probably not going to have the Lions winning, but I bet they're going to cover.
And like me and you pre-show discussion, I am picking the Lions to at least cover, but they do have the Seahawks winning by 8. Seahawks by 8. Fun fact, also with them hadn't won a playoff game recently. They have never beaten Seattle in Seattle, but they came close last year. They only lost by 3. It was 13-10 Seattle at CenturyLink Field. So this being a better Detroit Lions team now in terms of they spread the ball out more ways than one now that Calvin's gone, I see that they have more of a better shot going into CenturyLink and actually winning this game. But again, it all depends on turnovers. If one turnover happens from Matthew Stafford, he freaks out and the game is over.
Yeah, he starts to overplay a little bit. Once he throws one pick, it turns into 2 and turns into 3. But like you said, if he maintains a clean game, I give him at least a shot. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I at least give them a shot to keep it close. But who am I to be right in most things? So I'll be pleasantly surprised if the Lions win. I'm an underdog guy typically when it comes to the NFL. Hence, my Panthers sucked horribly, so bad.
Who?
Something Las Panteras.
Look, when your team has to write apology notes to their fans, that's sad. Y'all had two good years in the history of the Panthers, and that's it. So
that was a nice touch, though, right? No,
it was childish.
It's a fan base move. It's a PR move. Now Cam Newton should probably write a few apology letters, not only to us, but to his receivers and to Greg Olsen and to his defense and everybody else. But that's another discussion for another day.
I want to say one thing, and then we're going to Sunday's games. The only thing Cam should apologize for is actually making Carolina fans think he's a good quarterback, because he is subpar at best. Shall we move on to the first game tomorrow, Chris?
I can't vehemently disagree with you there, unfortunately. I'll give you mediocre, freakish athlete, but mechanics,
Athletes don't play quarterback.
Yeah, put him at tight end, for goodness sake.
AKA Tom Brady next week.
Anyway, Sunday game, the early game, Dolphins 10-6 going into Pittsburgh with the Steelers, who are 11-5. Now, this is your team, and they've been coming in kind of warm. Tell us about your Steelers.
Well, we're on a 7-game winning streak, and that's partly in large part due to Le'Veon Bell just being a beast. That and Ben Roethlisberger is having more people to pass the ball to, and I can't even tell you who they are. So we got that going for us. But on the other side of the ball, what scares me is just the running back for Miami, and that's Jay Ajayi.
Mm-hmm.
And he is the number one reason why the Dolphins beat us 30-15 earlier in the year. So by all means, it's not a pushover game, but the Dolphins have a very, very questionable quarterback, thing going on right now too, to where the Steelers have D'Angelo Williams back. Thank you, by the way. Have D'Angelo Williams back, who can now sub in for Le'Veon, give him more of a break, and I think that's going to be the game changer for Pittsburgh, is having both those running backs back.
Yeah, like you said, the the Dolphins looks like they're starting Matt Moore, who is a career backup. He had a short stint in Carolina himself, backing up Jake Delhomme back in the day. But, for what it's worth, he's actually a solid quarterback and has been in the league in general for like 10 years plus now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's a capable quarterback when it comes to doing that. Now, people have been giving the Dolphins all this junk all year because they don't think their head coach is that great, or they don't think Ryan Tannehill is that great. Tannehill is going to be one of those Matt Stafford types, I think. He can sling it. He's going to make some mistakes along the way, but once he finds his groove, I think he can be a good NFL quarterback. So can the Steelers defense stop Ajayi and Matt Moore? That combination is going to be a little different dynamic, but Tannehill is scheduled to be back next week if the Dolphins win. So if they can get through the Steelers, Dolphins have a shot, but give me the Steelers in this one. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, I mean, not just, I like to be unbiased when we talk. I do feel like the spread is a little much. They got Steelers at 10.5. I mean, I know they're playing in Hines. It's going to be mid-teens with a chance of snow. Not a huge chance, but you got to think. I mean, those Southern Miami boys coming up to play in the cold in Pittsburgh, that's going to make a difference.
That's what I was about to say, though. Miami, 70s, 80s, and a nice little sunshine going into some flurries and some mid-teens. That's going to throw off the game just a little bit.
Absolutely.
So, now, I don't know if you heard this. I'm sure you did, being a Steelers fan. Terry Bradshaw, NFL analyst, former quarterback of the Steelers, went on record saying, he was asked if he thought Mike Tomlin is a great NFL head coach. And he essentially flat out said no. He's a great leader, a great cheerleader, I believe was his words, and not a big X's and O's guy. What's your opinion on your head coach there?
I agree with Terry Bradshaw 100%. Me and my father had this conversation. I mean, it's basically, and like, again, me and you talked about before the show, he has built a good foundation around him to look successful. But we all know when it was Dick LeBeau, it was Dick LeBeau's defense. Todd Haley's now, it's Todd Haley's offense. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Mike Tomlin does not run anything. He sits there and tells you how good you're doing, and that's about it. I hate to say it like that because he seems like a super nice guy. He does have a ring. A lot of coaches can't say they have that. He was the youngest coach to win one. But again, he was the youngest coach to win because of the pieces of the Steelers organization that was already put around him. So I agree. He is a cheerleader at best, but he will never be a great head coach. He's a good one, but never great.
Okay. I mean, I tend to agree with you guys on that as well. He's always had a great support system beside him that makes him look a little bit better. And he's got one of these attitudes, one of these characteristics about him that he's hard-nosed, good moral, good team guy. He just sort of fits the job description of a head coach.
He fits the job description of a Steelers head coach. Because the Rooney family is all about getting the right people in there that's going to make sure that their standards are upheld of what they want. The fact that they still have Le'Veon Bell after all these pot charges is beyond me, but you got to look at the last two coaches, Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin, spotless records.
Right. So let me ask you this. If Mike Tomlin were to leave the Steelers and go to a team that was 6-10 the year before, do you think Mike Tomlin could bring them out of the abyss and into a playoff type position? Do you think he could build them up himself, or do you think he has to sort of put that team beside him once again?
Yeah, no, he has to have the people around him. There's no doubt about that he has to build the people around him to be able to simply move forward. If he went into a 6-10 team, there's no way he would be able to bring that team out of the abyss. I mean, even though I know the Texans the Texans are a part of a even though the Texans are where they're at and they've qualified for the playoffs and stuff. Even if he was on that team, I think they would not win that division. They would not be in the seat that they are now. I think they have a better coach that they already have, leading them forward as they can. So, no, I don't think Mike Tomlin, he couldn't make it outside the Steelers organization.
That would be interesting to see because obviously we just said, too, that he's one of the younger still head coaches in the NFL as far as age. So, coaching speak, he's still got probably 15, 20 years left in him. So we'll see if any of that takes shape as we look ahead. But give me the Steelers in that one. Next game up, which I think is the most intriguing of the weekend.
This is the best game of the weekend, hands down.
And considering I'm saying that the New York Giants are in this game is weird for me to call that intriguing because I don't find them that interesting at all. But, again, they're one of these teams that have completely hung around, and they seem to be in the playoff picture every single year.
Let me give you an analogy that I think you will understand, okay?
All right.
My analogy being is we know how Virginia Cavaliers of ACC basketball, we know exactly how methodical they are.
Sorry, guys. I'm trying to plug up my computer.
Here, man.
Trying to plug up the old computer. My apologies, fellas.
Anyway, but we all know how methodical Virginia Cavaliers basketball team is in the ACC. I think that's how the New York Giants are of the NFL. They don't try. I mean, of course, ODJ is flashy, and when he scores a touchdown, he proposes to a kicking net. But that team beats you with so many different ways that you don't really know what's coming. I mean, the Giants and Packers have already played earlier this year. It was the first time they met in the regular season in the past 3 years. But Green Bay did win 23-16, and that was in Lambeau. So, I mean.
Yeah, that's another thing I had. The last two trips to Lambeau, Eli Manning has that field's number for whatever reason. He's beaten Brett Favre there. He's beaten Aaron Rodgers there. But here's my question to you. If you look at the Packers' schedule, the last 4 to 6 weeks on their, I think, 6-game win streak, their schedule's kind of eased up a little bit. I mean, yeah, they're getting hot at the right time, but they started off pretty much under 500 most of the year until the last part of the season.
Well, you got to think. I mean, looking at their win streak going on here, they beat the Eagles, which they started off hot.
They fell off. Yep.
They beat the Texans, which again should not be out in the playoffs. I feel like Oakland should get a first-round bye. They beat Seattle at home at Lambeau in 38-10.
That's the most impressive one out of the whole trip there.
I mean, it is. And then, of course, the Vikings, they started off hot. They beat them. And then the Lions beat them in a good game at the end of the year in Detroit. Again, Aaron Rodgers is one of those quarterbacks. He has Detroit's number.
Right. And sort of playoff caliber teams, most of them, but nothing to really be, you crawl in the corner and be scared of.
Right.
But to me, this one comes down to rushing. Do you think either of these running backs, because the weather is not going to be favorable for tossing the old pigskin around at Lambeau?
I want to say that the running game means more to New York. Rashad Jennings, in terms of comparing the top two running backs on the team, Rashad Jennings has 181 carries. Ty Montgomery for Green Bay only has 77. That tells you, in terms of their running back game, which one relies on which the most. Because, now don't get me wrong, I know Green Bay will do a lot of things that it looks like a run, like a little screen to the left or right or a little dump pass over the middle. But the Giants have more of the true running game. If they can get that going and soften up that defense, it's possible for Eli to go in there and steal another one on the frozen tundra.
Yep, very, very true, very true. I hate to say it, but the Packers just have that playoff mentality about them. Give me the Packers in this one. I don't know what the line is, but that's my gut feeling. They're at
Packers
home.
By 5.
Okay, I don't know about the cover, but I like them winning straight up in general.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree with that. I love the New York Giants. I don't know why. There's something about them that I just absolutely love the New York Giants for some reason, and I do believe that if they can get past the frozen tundra of Lambeau, watch out for them because, the last time they won the Super Bowl, they started as a wild card team, and they won. So be on the lookout.
And they're probably going to end up meeting the team that they've beaten twice in Super Bowls before, Leslie's New England Patriots.
It is lining up to be a trifecta this year. It is very possible, and I think if there's a betting line on that, on whether it'll be them in the Super Bowl, you take that bet. You take Absolutely. It now, and you just money in the bank.
So I realized we forgot one major component before we move to one of our favorite topics. That'd be an ACC basketball. We forgot to tell the people where in the world to find us on Twitter.
I mean,
how did that happen?
I don't even know.
I mean, it's written down right there.
Well, it's on your screen. As long as they're watching, they understand.
Yeah, I know. So just for old time's sake, you can find us on Twitter at knockdown_. That was terrible. Knockdown_radio on Twitter. That's our most active form of social media. Like I said, you can find me hanging out on Wrestling Inc. at Wrestling Inc. on Monday and Tuesday nights during Raw and SmackDown. And also 2H Brewing at 2H Brewing. So one of our favorite things to talk about. Yes, Cody.
I just want to ask. I don't know if you saw my tweet earlier, but did you see? We're going into ACC basketball, I promise. But did you see where the first question of Roy Cooper's press conference today about the snow was? How are the athletic events going to work today? It was pretty much one of his first questions.
That's shade. So much shade.
Oh, man.
If you listen to, I guess, was it the last or 2 episodes ago? I lose count. But with HB2, a lot of the ACC championships, actually all the ACC championships, and a lot of and the NBA playoff All-Star game that should be here in February are not going to be here due to HB2. Roy Cooper, obviously not an advocate of that particular law. I imagine, depending on what he's able to do, that law will be adios sooner rather than later. But we'll see. I'll be mean. I want my sports back.
Yeah,
that's only the only reason I really want it to be gone. But you know what? I want my sports back.
Yep.
Call me a bad human if you want to. I don't care.
You're a crappy Republican.
Oh, whatever.
All right, man. Let's go on. Let's just get this topic over with. Because we talked about it. Let's go. Because
we have ACC basketball. ACC basketball. We can spend another hour on this in general, I think.
Well, we only got 30 minutes. So.
Yeah, I know. But Grayson Allen, your boy.
Love him. Little Leitner.
That's what he thinks he is.
That's exactly who he is.
All right. Have you ever heard of the condition affluenza? Not influenza. Affluenza.
Yeah, there was a kid who killed a bunch of people, Chris, in Texas. Right. Come on.
Okay. Just making sure you're up on our current events. This kid has to be the richest, most coddled kid I've ever seen because, all right, to break it down, they were playing Elon a couple of weeks ago in the Greensboro Coliseum.
The Mecca, yes.
Which won't be active this year. But he tripped a guy on Elon. His name was Steven Santa Anna, and he's not from California. What? Look, no geography joke for you. Anyways. Actually, I'm not sure where he's from, but due to that, Grayson sat down, was given a technical, and threw one of the worst and most embarrassing temper tantrums I've ever seen from a collegiate basketball player in my entire life. Now, just your initial thoughts on the play itself and the breakdown after the play.
Okay, I'll start off with the tantrum, okay? I'm going to start and work my way backwards here. So the tantrum, I understand that he is a collegiate basketball player and should be acting as close to a grown man as he can, but I don't see us treating Bobby Knight like he was a bad person when he slapped the kid in the jaw and told him to look him in the eye and threw chairs across the floor. So I'll go from That's my point there.
Okay, that's apples to oranges in the worst sense possible. But
Both
okay,
are fruit. Both are fruit, man. They can be compared. All right. So, so there's my comparison there. If you're a passionate player, you're upset over something, you show it. All right. Now, on to this whole tripping thing, Chris. Chris, I need you to be honest with me on this tripping thing, okay? You mean to tell me that if you just got beat by a man, which he did, he got beat on the dribble,
right?
And it's just you and him, you're not going to flail a limb trying to make sure you stop him from getting to the basket?
Within the set of the rules, in order to not get a technical foul, and hopefully I have some help defense below me, yes, I'm going to trust my teammates in that sense, because if I screw up, I'll pat on my chest and say, my bad, go on to the next play. I mean, I don't sit there. He's not Ric Flair. He's not the dirtiest player in Eddie Guerrero. He's not the dirtiest player in the game. Actually, he probably is. But that's not what you need to equate yourself to. It's supposed to be college athletics. It's supposed to be wholesome. It's supposed to be amateur.
But you're there to win.
You know,
you are there to win the game.
You're making the next point. Calm down. Anyway, calm down. All right, so he was suspended indefinitely. Okay, large quotations around that one, because initially Coach K, I don't think, saw the video of what happened, because he put Grayson back in the second half. And after the game, Coach K went on to say, I handled things the way I handle them, and I believe that's the way that is best. And apparently the best is putting him in the second half. But then after the fact, I guess with enough media criticism and after seeing the play on video and how pretty much intentional, I guess is the word, that it was, he decided to suspend him indefinitely. Now, situation B, indefinitely, is an undetermined amount of time, right? Essentially.
Right.
But yes, in a sense, it's supposed to mean a long-ish time, right? Indefinite, that sort of seems long-ish. Yeah.
I mean, to someone else besides me and you, yes, that's the answer. But indefinitely means as long as you want it to be, and we all know that.
Right. And for this particular situation, indefinitely happened to be one whole entire game. And I'll touch on something else in just a second. But with that said, this is the breakdown that happened. They had a very bad loss at Virginia Tech, this being Duke. And North Carolina had a very unexpected loss to Georgia Tech at home. Georgia Tech disrupted North Carolina's complete game plan. It was one of the ugliest and most inept in coaching experiences I've ever seen, which leads us to another thing down below. But that one game, did Coach K panic based on his back surgery that he successfully had yesterday? Did Coach K possibly panic and put Grayson Allen in after he saw what Georgia Tech did to North Carolina? Or did the Virginia Tech loss have anything to do with it? Or was this the proper amount of punishment for his third tripping offense?
Okay, well, let's just talk. I mean, here's the thing. This is probably ranked number 2 out of the 3 tripping incidents, okay? So we'll leave it at that. I think one game was too much. I don't think he should have been suspended.
Goodness.
I mean, I don't see it. I mean, so you mean to tell me now that we're seeing all these Clemson Tigers grabbing people's
that was bad. That was bad.
I mean, so they're not going to go back and suspend him for the national championship game, are they?
Probably not.
All right, then. Point made. So, yeah.
All right. Fool me once. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What happens when you fool me thrice? That's my thing. They don't even have a saying for that, because once you screw up 3 times, it's too many.
Well, here's my thing. I know there are players out there who would say, you know what, if he beat me, he beat me. But I can sit here and tell you that if I know I'm getting beat, I'm going to try to get a foot underneath him. I mean, I'm sorry. Grayson Allen plays the basketball the way that I want to see basketball played, and that's at a high level, no regard. That's why I like Christian Laettner. I mean, he's little Laettner.
You're such a heel. You're such a heel.
I am such a heel. I am. I mean, come on. I pull for Tony Stewart. I pull, I mean, I like starting to like Duke more than Carolina now. Tell your wife. I know she'll be happy about that.
All right. Podcast over, guys. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
But, I mean, that's my thing. This is what, I mean, no offense. He puts people in the seats. They're going to want him at the next level because the dude's a freakish athlete. This is going to have no effect on him at all moving forward. He just needs to learn to act like he knows how to handle it once he's taken off the court.
Right. I mean, that was my biggest thing is the tantrum. I looked at that more so than the tripping itself. And that sort of lent me to, is the dude on roids? Because he's kind of bulked up a little bit. That almost seemed like a little roid rage. I mean, that's my hot take of the day.
No, he's dude, he is an angry teenager, man. That's all it is.
Coddled.
Yeah, you're right. He has been. He has.
Right.
He's a pretty boy. He's a pretty boy playing at one of the most prestigious, prettiest colleges. I mean, the dude wants for nothing. I mean, you got to have a breakdown every once in a while.
All right, I'll give you that. All right, so Grayson Allen, obviously, with the whole Coach K thing, and we broke that down to wanting to win, possibly because of the panic against Virginia Tech. There was an article in a North Carolina newspaper that I will not name the paper or the author. If you really want to check out our Twitter at knockdown_radio. Nice plug that I worked in there.
Or you can go to mine where I call them out and say, well, how did you even let this off the print table?
I mean,
come on now.
The editor
Chris, go
chief,
ahead.
The editor-in-chief should be absolutely embarrassed. The sports editor, whoever let this leave their desk, yes, it was an op-ed article. It was opinion editorial. I don't care. If it's not well-written and there's no meat on the bone to your argument, why do it? It was nothing but a scorching hot take that literally has no flame. It was really, really bad.
Yeah. So and let's just talk about the points. We'll start with the school that you don't like first. We'll start with Duke. We'll bring up the other school down Tobacco Road here in just a moment. But it's basically, as you were talking, it's okay. I don't care about what these kids are doing. I'm here to win. I'm here to win games. And how the coaches don't care about the well-being of the student, the well-being of anyone else going on. They're there to win games. They're there for themselves. And I've watched plenty of behind-the-scenes stuff from Coach K, with him working with the USA team and Duke and stuff like that. I think it's safe to say that he's not that type of person, to where he's just there to win basketball games. And if you're going to make that argument, you best have something to back it up with. And that's my first thing. You're going to call out two of the most prestigious basketball programs in the country, not just the state, the country.
In the history of college basketball, no less.
Yeah, no, I mean, hands down, with no substance to back your argument off of. Again, I know it's opinionated. Me and you are coming out with each other's opinions here, but at least we can back them up with stuff that we know what we're talking about.
Exactly. And this guy just needed attention, poor fella. And I swear he must be a State fan. But this is what he did. He actually called out the ethical and moral beliefs of both Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams, two of the most well-respected names in the game. Now, not often will you see me go to bat for Mike Krzyzewski, but from what I've seen, read, heard from all of his former players, maybe with the exception of Grayson Allen, is he's there to make them better human beings, better men, teach them how to live life after the basketball court, whether that's professionally or back at home off the court. I've heard nothing but good things about both men. And they equated this Grayson Allen situation to Coach K going into the game for himself, for the wins, for the team. Now, understand that college basketball in general is a huge, huge money business. Not as much maybe as football, especially for these two programs. But yes, you want to win for that school. You want to win for your job security, even though I don't think, even if they were terrible, either of these coaches would be fired at all. But like I said, I don't often stand up for Coach K, but in this sense, this guy calling out the morality and the ethics of these two coaches was just completely unsubstantiated, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's no backbone from this guy. I think you're right. I mean, and God bless him if he is a State fan. I think State's going to be a great basketball team if you give him a few more years. Godfrey's got it going on down there, if you ask me. But we're going to now Carolina because, as you alluded to, the second coach he calls out is Roy Williams. Now, to me, Roy Williams is not – he's not the greatest coach. He lacks a lot of things in terms of what I consider to be a great coach. But everything that this person was calling him out for was pre-Roy. Am I correct, Chris? I mean, everything that we're talking about is pre-Roy.
They brought some things up. This third notice of allegations.
Okay, the third
notice of allegations that came up did involve the men's basketball team with the papered classes and the different majors that may or may not have been fraudulent or completely up to par with the university and the NCAA standards. So with that said, some of this possibly did happen on his watch. But let's break this down for a second to Roy as a person. Whenever you see Roy have an interview, whenever you see Roy on the sidelines, does he look like the most official paperwork genius ever?
No. I mean, there's no question about that. I would be surprised if he knows how to work a computer.
That's what I'm saying. And is he the greatest in-game coach ever? To me, as my coach per se, I dislike his in-game coaching for a million years. Hate it.
His game management is awful.
But as far as getting players to buy into his system, being a practice coach, being a program builder, being a recruiter, he does all those things very, very well.
It's true.
So, but none of those this guy called out. He essentially called out Roy for playing dumb. I don't think Roy was necessarily playing dumb. I think Roy, in this case, when it comes to those different things, he's listening to the tutors. He's listening to this. He's taking them for their word. He's not exactly looking into it for himself. So is Roy playing dumb? No, he probably actually is incoherent to the situation at hand.
Which and that is my topic, or that's my topic of discussion for this. If you want to call out anybody for this whole education scandal thing that they're going on at Carolina, you cannot point a finger at any of the coaches. I'm sorry, because, and this is just speaking to myself, playing heel, since that's what you said I am. Don't get me wrong. If I'm getting an A for a class and I ain't got to show up for it, I ain't gonna tell my coach like, "Yo, coach, I'm getting an A for the class and I ain't even got to go." I mean, no, that's not the point, because if you're there at one of these big prestigious schools and you get a little leeway on the side and you think you're going to go tell your coach because as soon as you know, you tell him it's over for a little bit, I have nothing on these coaches. I'm sorry. It's not
a case-by-case basis. This happens everywhere. I don't care what you say. The tutors pass the classes for the student athletes.
Because they earn money too. Everything's driven by the dollar. Right. The NCAA is just a flawed system.
Because if, say you follow a student athlete on Twitter, I don't care if he's a football player, basketball player, one of the big money sports, I would say half the time, these cats can't even put together a formatically correct sentence. Or they're, half emojis, but that's college speak. I understand that. But, and we use the same way, I'm sure, when we were a little younger. So, I mean, this is us sort of in our get off my lawn type of position. But it all goes back to, honestly, the NCAA flexing its muscles where it may not should have. It sort of feels similar to me to the Penn State situation. Penn State got rained down with so many penalties, it was ridiculous. And then they eventually got a little bit reduced. But the NCAA cracked down on them so bad after the Jerry Sandusky situation, it was crazy.
Penn State has paid over $250 million for this scandal.
Yeah, and look at them now. They were almost on the cusp of being in the cusp of being put in the college football playoffs,
They should have been, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay. Okay. And I forgot about that. That's one last thing we can sort of end on. But in this sense, the writers should be embarrassed. The papers should be embarrassed. The coaches should not even acknowledge or read this article. Just this right here. I hate to give that much time to it, but it was so bad I felt I had to.
Again, and me and you are both smart enough to know that it's an opinionated article to where we should not get upset about it. But if you're going to come at somebody with something, you best look like you know what you're talking about.
But the problem
I'm talking about it, but it's ridiculous.
Right. The problem I had with it is it was retweeted by the official ACC sports Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
The official, it had a nice little blue check mark.
Little check mark, yeah.
And the last thing I want to touch on before we move to some of the surprises in the ACC season so far, with the Grayson Allen thing, just hitting on it one last time, is the game that he was suspended, they had a special picture-in-picture box to watch Grayson Allen for most of the game instead of watching the actual game on the court. ESPN, speaking of embarrassed, you should be embarrassed. Should it have been touched on? Yes. Should we be watching Grayson Allen half of the game to make a mistake or use a cuss word? No. That's where I'll actually come to his defense and the program's defense. And ESPN is turning into CNN light, and it's bad. But
yeah, I have no. You hit the nail on the coffin. ESPN sucks. There's no other way to say it. All right, continue, Chris.
Don't guess we're working there anytime soon.
Oh God, no. Hey Fox, you need somebody to work with me? All right.
You seem more like an NBC guy to me, but
you're probably right.
All right. Looking at the ACC standings for the young basketball season, a few surprises, honestly. Even before Carolina got their win the other night in overtime versus Clemson, Jesus Christ. They lost to Georgia Tech with the opening season of the game, or open game of the ACC season. So Carolina's actually one of my disappointments so far. I don't know what it is. If it's Joel Berry just now coming back, getting into the swing of things. Theo Pinson is slated to come back today versus NC State, which is good news. He's going to bring a ton of energy and makes the rotation a little deeper. But they're sitting fifth right now at 1-1, and I know that it's early on in the season, but they're 13-3 overall, which honestly is midway through the conference in overall records. But looking at some of the disappointment so far, you have to look at Virginia as the big one so far. Is their style is now – it was great the first couple of years because it slowed people down and they couldn't figure out how to get rid of it. But there's so many up-tempo teams in the ACC now that they're – unless they perform their game plan flawlessly, they're going to have problems scoring the ball.
They are, and that's the thing. I mean, because they're going up against a Wake Forest team tomorrow night. That's their next game. And if you think about it, or excuse me, January 8th, but if you think about it, even last year, Wake Forest, who's not that dominant of a team, but I feel like they are on the rise. They're a good-looking team. They had a good preseason tournament. I forget which one they were in, but they had a really good preseason tournament.
I agree.
But they only lost to Virginia by 1 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Wake Forest has gotten better. Virginia, they're starting to figure them out. That's going to be a table turner to where Virginia is ranked 11th in the nation right now. Very well by the end of next week, they could be out of the top 25.
Very possible. And the big glaring hole right now is Malcolm Brogdon. He was such a big part of that team, offensively and defensively. And he
was a spark in that slow offense.
Exactly.
And
then you look at him now, people were saying, oh, he's too small, he's too slow, he's not going to do well in the NBA. I dare you to go look at the Milwaukee Bucks stats right now. He is now starting and almost averaging a double-double per game. The dude is good.
Yeah.
The dude is good. So he was underappreciated as a part of that offense. So unless they can up the tempo a little bit, and I like Tony Bennett as a coach, I really do. But we'll see how they fare the rest of the season. Another slight disappointment is Louisville. They're 0-2 in the conference to start, but they beat Kentucky. So how do we look at Louisville as we go ahead?
Louisville, for me, in terms of how they work, I mean, they have They have the players. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's no question about that. But I think,
and they have the coach. Even though I'm not a fan, they have the coach.
Yeah, and I guess my thing, a concern from them is going to be the big guys for me. For them, they're tall, but they have no muscle. They don't have anyone who can push around the block, and I think that's going to be a problem, especially in ACC play. But to me, with everything that has gone on with this Louisville program, to me, they have that look ahead syndrome to where if you ain't a big name, we don't really care.
Yep.
And I know that's not how it should be, but I think that's the culture in Louisville, and I think that's what got them in trouble during the football season as well. It's just the culture there.
Oh, the football, the bowl game they were in, oh my word, they got trounced by LSU. Yeah. And that was them and Carolina were only the big disappointments for the ACC in the entire bowl season. But that's another conversation for another day.
What about the surprises, Chris? Because I know I have me a couple ones who are playing today.
Yeah, I've got one as being Virginia Tech because they took care of Duke at home fairly quickly and fairly easily. They were hot, yes, but Buzz Williams, another fantastic coach with a lot of charisma, has got that program trending upward. So I really want to see them in about 2 years. But right now they're on an upward tick, and I think they could compete and probably, if they keep this up, make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and then the other one I wanted to touch on is Florida State. Florida State's lost one game so far. They're number one in the ACC technically. Their loss being a 3-point loss to Temple. Temple is always a steady team who can beat you any given day you play them in basketball. And they've also had a good win against Florida.
Yep.
And Virginia, beating them by 2 in Virginia.
That's a big, people might say, oh, it's only 2 and it's at Virginia, but that's actually a pretty big statement win in the ACC.
It is. So I think these two teams playing each other today, that's one of my games to watch today. I might even have to give up some of the NFL to watch that. But that Virginia Tech-Florida State game, Virginia Tech 4th in the ACC, Florida State 1st in the ACC, those two surprise teams there. I mean, ACC's got 6-7 teams in the top 25 right now.
Yeah, it's actually they had 7, I think, last week, which is the most ever that the conference has ever had.
Tied. It was tied for most.
Oh, it's tied? Okay.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame sitting at the top of the league so far at 2-0, 13-2 overall.
23 in the nation, 23rd in the nation.
Yep, Coach Mike Bray also has another good squad. I'm not as familiar with their squad, but they seem to sneak up on you every year. They seem to be near the ACC championship every year that they've been in there. So good for them, and we'll look for good things in the ACC as a conference. But with that said, I know it's early, but I heard the rumor, and we'll take this purely as rumor. Do you think the ACC can get 10 teams out of, 15 now? 16. 10 teams in the NCAA tournament?
I'll tell you what, it's possible because I think you can already say Duke, Carolina, Notre Dame, and Louisville should be shoe-ins. Because I think Notre Dame, even if they drop out of the top 25, they're going to have the resume playing in the ACC. So there's 4 right there.
Florida State, unless they fall flat, that's fine.
Florida State and Virginia Tech, both of them, top 25 teams right now. That puts you at 6.
I think Pittsburgh, Clemson, and Miami all at least have a shot at being one of those 10-6 teams, type of conference records. 9-7, 10-6, whatever.
But see, this is where we hurt her. This is where the ACC hurts ourselves. Okay,
we beat ourselves
because Syracuse is about to just beat Pitt by 11 points, and they're 2 different winning records right now. So I mean that's your thing. I don't think Clemson's a basketball program, so I refuse to put them in a conversation like this. I can't see that. The only thing that I say is that we're going to have those 6 teams that we spoke about, and one more who's going to beat all these teams to win their way into the conference championship game.
Probably so.
And then that's exactly how it's going to go. So I'm probably going to cap us off at like 7.
Okay.
I don't think I don't think we're getting past 7.
I'm going to give us 8 because I've got Carolina, Duke, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame. Georgia Tech impressed me, but I don't think they're going to do anything over the long haul.
Don't forget Virginia. Don't forget Virginia.
Virginia will stay in there. Georgia Tech surprised me, but like I said, I think they had a good game plan. I don't think they're that great of a team overall, even though Jason Pastner, who was the coach at Memphis for a while, I believe, big young coach on the rise. I think he's going to take the Yellow Jackets to new levels. Wake Forest not going to be there. Boston College not going to be there. Miami is always a wild card to me. It sort of just depends on what team Jim Larinaga brings to the table this year. Syracuse, I think, is going to have a down year. And then Clemson, Brad Brownell has them playing very well. I mean, they, again, had a good game plan against the Tar Heels the other night and executed it very, very well. So I'm going to give us 8 just to be optimistic for once in my life. So we'll see how it goes. But I don't think we're going to get to 10. Is it possible? Yes. But there's too many decent teams in the league because I think this league is deeper than it ever has been. We're going to beat up on each other, and we're going to have a lot of teams with that 9-7, 8-8, 10-6 record that the committee is just not going to look upon. They might rather give to a mid-major.
I agree. I'm capping it at 7. I say we will not get any more than that. There's always a possibility that we will have 10, but with the way we beat up on each other, it'll never happen.
Definitely. So we'll see what happens there. But we have a game Monday night, big game with the national championship for college football. The Clemson Tigers of the ACC versus the Alabama Crimson Tide of the SEC. Now, quick argument. Better football conference this year, ACC or SEC?
If we're going by bowl records, ACC, baby.
Absolutely. Can't disagree at all. And that was a lot of the debate on the different sports shows around this area and even on the big networks. The ACC came to play this year, and the SEC had a quote-unquote down year. I think there was a little twist and spin on how they wanted to say it. But ACC, to me, was the better football conference. But in this national championship game, who do you have and why?
I still have, as much as it pains me to say it, I still have Alabama winning the game. I just believe that in terms of their offense going up against Clemson's defense, they're going to score on them every time. I know that they closed out Ohio State, and I watched it, and I could not believe it. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like it's two different teams, and I feel like it's going to be a shootout to start off with. And what's going to change the dynamic of the game is when Alabama or when Clemson finally has a 3-and-out, and they have to either punt the ball and something happens on special teams, or if they throw an interception that close to their own end zone. One of those two things are going to happen. I feel it in my heart, and that's going to be the game changer, and Alabama's going to win.
Yeah, I agree there. Let me stop this video 1 second. Sorry, I had an ad come up while I was looking up something. But scared the crap out of me, too, if you saw me jump. Alabama -6 right now on the line. On the spread. That seems probably about right, with the total being 51 on the points. As much as I want to stay homer and go Clemson, Deshaun Watson, fantastic quarterback, will be a good NFL quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. It's hard to bet against Nick Saban. It really is.
It really is.
The wild card here to me is Lane Kiffin took the job at Florida Atlantic.
Yes, this is a good wild card.
He did not apparently go in with the game plan or execute the game plan that Nick Saban exactly wanted to against Washington. Everybody thought this was going to be a blowout against Washington, but it was a little more competitive than people thought. So Nick Saban pretty much nicely asked, hey, Lane, go on your way. Go get started with your head coach. And now he's replaced by another troubled former head coach, Steve Sarkisian, former USC coach. So we go from one troubled coach to another as their offensive coordinator. But do you think Sarkisian will come in with a good game plan, or would you rather have the other fellow in there?
Lane
Kiffin. There we go. Jesus, I'm off, man.
Well, here's my thing. I don't think it's going to matter. I really don't. Because I'm sitting here looking, Alabama beat Clemson 45-40 last year. Mm-hmm. Both teams have gotten better. It's going to be around that same score. I think that the over under of 50 points being scored, that's out the window. I think that's out the window.
So no defense for you, huh?
No defense for me. Like I said, it's going to be that one play because Clemson can put up points. We both know this.
Absolutely.
But Alabama, their defense is like men against boys. So I don't know. I still have Alabama winning, but I don't think it's going to make a difference on who's calling plays for them.
And if we're going with the rushing game, was it Derrick Henry from Alabama? Maybe one of the freshmen this year. But whatever running back they have, the two games that I've actually watched with Alabama, he's flat ran over people. And there's really no match for their O-line or that running back. So we'll see how that one shakes out. I want to say Clemson, but give me Alabama for another boring national championship.
Well, and let me say this.
It works.
Let me say this, SEC fans. Just because your conference wins the national championship does not mean that you have the best conference in football.
Amen.
So this is real quick because I know me and you both. We're just ACC fans to the max. We're the best conference in field hockey. We win the national championship in that every year.
Oh, we're going inside the numbers. I like this.
We got soccer where Virginia, Carolina, and this year Wake Forest making it to the national championship. And then we got football, who we have the best record in the bowl games. And then we have the best conference in basketball because you don't want to play us on any given day. Now, those are just the sports that I know about off the top of my head in terms of championships and stuff like that. But, we haven't been on here. I haven't had a rant in a while. Get off the ACC's back, the best conference out there. Sit down, everybody else. Exactly.
But that just about does it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Anything that you want to get off your chest or where people can follow you at while we're not on the pod?
Well, you can follow me at CRTEAGUE. That is on the Twitter there. I am pretty snarky, and I keep most of my sporty opinions that would make Chris angry off of the Knockdown Sports Radio Twitter. So follow me there. That way I call people out like that newspaper who posted that article. Yep,
there you go. I pretty much don't have a personal account anymore. You can follow me at Knockdown _ Hey, that was good. Knockdown _ radio. You can find some of my wrestling tweets there. A lot of my just sports in general. We follow along like you've listened today with the ACC basketball season. We'll follow along. Hopefully, I'll let you be covering the national championship if you can stay up that late. Hopefully, we can do something with that. Excuse me. But I'll be doing Monday Night Raw for at Wrestling Inc. if you'll want to find me there. I might try to find a way to do a 2-screen night that night. We'll see.
I got the game. Don't worry.
All right. Hey, I might want to watch it either way, But again, Knockdown _ radio is our Twitter handle. Unfortunately, we went ahead and dismantled the knockdownsportsradio.com website and our Spreaker. So if you want to find us, you'll find us on here for our podcast episodes, whether I'm riding solo, or I've got my partner in crime, Cody, with me. But for Cody Teague, I am Chris Calicut. This is Knockdown Sports Radio. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.